Something is rotten in the world for so many neurodivergent people. We are here today to address a crisis affecting assessment and support services working with autistic people and those with ADHD. We are here to strategize concerning how neurodivergent people may be supported to thrive rather than barely surviving. Everyone here brings an individual insight and their own experience, concerns and aims, as well as, I am sure, a passion and commitment to make a difference. I feel privileged to have the opportunity to address this summit in my role as ambassador to the West Yorkshire Neurodiversity Review. In doing so, I draw on my experience as both an autistic person and someone working in the field of autism, and on the input of other members of the neurodivergent community to articulate how neurodivergent perspectives can and should push us forwards towards what needs to be done to make the world a fairer, more equitable place for neurodivergent people. When I was thinking about the role of neurodivergent voices in conversations we are having today, I was reminded of something I once wrote about the experience of being autistic in a world that caters for the predominant neurotype. I wanted to paint a picture to bring neurotypical people to a place of understanding, perhaps of beginning to feel what it is like from the very word go, to sense that one is not experiencing the world or being experienced by the world in the ways expected, and the impact of this disconnect on who we are and our place in the world. I wrote, "You need to know that from our very earliest attempts at communication, we are often told that our sensory and emotional expressions are wrong. We are told that cuddles are supposed to be pleasant, even if to us they are painful. We are told that busy, loud environments that hurt every part of our bodies and make us either run, curl up, or lash out are fun. We are told that it's important to look at people's eyes when we talk to them, even if to us this is painful. We are told that the ways in which we do conversation are wrong. We are told that our passions and enthusiasms are wrong. We are told that we are wrong." I began working in the field of autism the better part of 2 decades ago, having been through my own nightmare of trying to access a diagnosis of autism and then fighting for the support and social care I needed to access education, employment, and other fundamentals required as an equal member of society. I wanted more than anything to work to ensure that other autistic people did not have to go through such trauma. Since then, those personal experiences have echoed through my career. Much of my work in relation to autism has been one-to-one client work, either crisis advocacy or peer support, most recently with recently diagnosed adults for Leeds Autism AIM. And central to this work is listening to the experiences of other autistic people. I would assume this is something I have in common with many, perhaps with the majority of people in this room. And I hear the same accounts time and time again of people oppressed by the world and further damaged by the very services to whom they turn for help, again and again. The experiences of being neurodivergent in the world are not limited to those inherent in our neurophysiological differences. Rather, they are socially situated and socially produced, and they go to the core of who we are, who we become, often shaping our identity and inflecting it with a sense of being different before we ever encounter the names given to our differences. And we are experts on how the world responds to our differences. We know we are different because the world tells us loudly and clearly that we are different and that different is bad. We know about the inaccessibility and about the social attitudes that exclude us from so many social structures and institutions of civil life. We are intimately familiar with the impenetrable bureaucracies that shroud the very systems supposedly there to help us deal with this exclusion. And we know the incompatibilities, the eligibility criteria, and the Kafkaesque mazes of requirements that force many of us to give up in gut-wrenching despair, weighed down and suffocated by hopelessness and cynicism, because nothing ever changes. And not only is our knowledge of such systems intimate, but it is also comprehensive because we also experience the process of being passed from service to service. What one person may call signposting, another can experience as dismissal. The experience of the service user is not siloed. And I think those of us working in these services should be troubled by such accounts and by the frequency with which we encounter them. I think we should be troubled and deeply uncomfortable. I know that I am. And rather than succumbing to the very human temptation of soothing that discomfort by denying responsibility or appealing to scientific objectivity or claiming to be on the right political side, bringing aesthetic order to the deck of the Titanic, we should be sitting with that discomfort and we should be embracing it as fuel to push us further, to do better, and to strive for more. The accounts of neurodivergent people are not only guidance that can steer those working in the field of autism towards greater levels of professional accomplishment, but in future, such accounts may themselves also serve as a testament to the impact of such accomplishment. I truly long for the day when I hear positive accounts, when neurodivergent people are not just surviving, but thriving. So, how to achieve that? How to ensure that the experiences of neurodivergent people are equitable and just, and that we are able to contribute fully as comprehensive partners in society. There's a phrase I find helpful in visualizing what our work should look like in this regard. Aim for the stars, and if you miss, you'll reach the moon. Aim for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land on the floor. I think it's easy, though, to talk ourselves into settling for the moon. We live and work in challenging times when resources are scarce and the workload overwhelming, when doing more with less has been the order of the day for as long as many of us can remember. And to survive in such a climate, it is certainly important that we have one eye on the moon, by which I mean addressing and prioritizing different forms of need, allocating resources realistically, and letting go of that which we can no longer manage to carry. However, if we accept the moon as our final destination, nothing will change, and the experiences of the neurodivergent people we encounter in our services, our workplaces, and our personal lives will continue to be infused with the pain, distress, and hopelessness brought about by the present circumstances we address today. So, what might reaching for the stars look like? I asked that question to neurodivergent people at a meeting of the co-production group that met as part of this review process. And these are some of the priorities they outlined. Ensure that neurodivergent people are not turned away from mental health services because of their neurodivergent diagnosis, and that they have parity of access to all health services in comparison with neurotypical people. The needs and priorities of neurodivergent people should be included in mainstream politics, for example, mentioned in the King's Speech. Training should be provided for all professionals and staff working with neurodivergent people, and a public advocacy campaign should challenge assumptions or myths. Support should be available based on need, including without or while waiting for diagnosis. Non-traditional approaches to commissioning should be embraced. For example, non-clinical mental health support. Social equality across neurotypes should be pursued. Challenges faced by those with multiple diagnoses should be addressed. For example, where an ADHD group is too loud for a person diagnosed with ADHD and autism, but they themselves are experienced as too loud by other members of an autism group. I've previously heard such priorities labelled as pie in the sky or unrealistic. But I would respond that all change seems impossible until such time as it happens. And many of the social attitudes and cultural practices we now take for granted in relation to other minority groups would once have seemed outlandish or impossible. And in any case, these are the goals to which we must be committed if we want truly to make meaningful difference in the lives of the neurodivergent people to whom we are personally or professionally committed. We have settled for the moon for too long. We have taken root in our silos of clinical work, education, social care, advocacy, and this has caused too many neurodivergent people to be stuck on the floor. This is not good work. It is not professional. It is not moral or ethical or socially just. It is unacceptable. We can do better. We need to do better. Neurodivergent people deserve better. I suggest that in all our work and across all facets of our life, we need to ask ourselves, how can I reach for the stars? And I invite you to begin now by considering 3 provocations with which I'll leave you. Number 1, what change should I make today? Number 2, what change should my organisation make? And what should my role be in making that happen? And number 3, what change must society make? And how can I campaign for that change? Thank you.